the Jaime Hernandez artist study live stream. I've got this fantastic book here. Gonna do some figure drawing from here, and also gonna look at some of his composition. A few volumes here of Love and Rockets. But most of it's gonna be this book. This book here is excellent. This is fairly new from Fantagraphics. If you flip it over, it's the sketchbook of his brother Gilbert, who's also a great cartoonist. Let's look at this. Two things about his composition that I really like. And I should actually, before I start, I should say that this is the only artist study I've done so far that I got to choose the artist. So I'm a little bit more familiar with his works than with most of the studies. So this is a little bit different. Usually I go into the studies not knowing very much about the artist that I'm looking at, but today I have a little bit more knowledge, but still will be much to learn, I'm sure. Two things about his composition that I really like in general. First is the way that he's able to pack so many people in and make everybody different and everybody kind of doing their own thing. Like his figures, I have a few examples I'll show in a few minutes of other works with crowds. And you can see in his crowds, it's not just a bunch of like cutouts of people kind of just there doing the same thing. Everybody has their own. And even in the background, you can see these hands sticking up. So even the people who aren't really shown are still kind of shown. And the other thing I really like is we're talking about edges, like for watercolor. With ink, it can be done. You can drop out like the pants here. And I think it's called closure, where you drop out the line, but the eye finishes it. So like we know that pant leg extends here. We know that like basically our eye fills in where the legs are, where the figure is. Same thing here with the back of the hair. And he gives us just enough to let us fill it in. I mean, like this hand here kind of gives us the edge of the pants there. Even the hand here, like the glove, that drops out there. And like he's framing this face here really nicely. Like the black here, and the gray and the white behind it. And the way that like his figures, see this, like the feet are kind of twisted. It's so dynamic. Like we got what the shoulders going this way, the hips going this way. So we have some of that contrapposto. And then like the action of the foot here, like stopping her right before she goes off the stage. And I find this is a really hard kind of foot pose to draw. But I think this is probably my favorite of his drawings. It's just, I don't know, it's amazing. These legs here. Somebody was stage diving maybe, or crowd surfing. I think he was big in the, like into the punk scene in the 80s, wherever he lived, so. This one here, he does a lot of wrestling art. And we can see the boots, it just drops out. But we know darn well that there's a boot there. We don't need the line to tell us. Same thing with the costume. And we just have like the ropes, stops there, so we know that there's a figure there. I'm interested in this. I was noticing this earlier. A little tangent. And I think this has to be intentional. I can't imagine that this would be overlooked. And I wonder if it has to do with the energy, like pulling the eye through, get that movement. Maybe if this was, if the leg was a little lower or higher, we would lose some of that dynamism. But I'm not really sure. And the figure work, again, that angle of that foot. This is something I noticed, and it's really hard to draw. People, like when they're standing, oftentimes the foot will be kind of turned like this. And just remembering to do that when appropriate, I think, is something important. And then this foot off the ground adds a little more of that energy. You could have easily just put it down, and that would have gotten rid of the tangent too. But I think this gives it, like we're right in the middle of the action. So even that toe lifting off here, I think it's like the little details that add up to make to make the whole thing feel fluid and dynamic. Let me see, I got one more here. Oh, this is just for the figure work, and the characterization is amazing. This is I believe this is a figure 4 leg lock. I don't know how you would draw this. He must have had reference, but drawing this and making it work, like, I always think drawing hands that are clasped, like with the fingers kind of interlocked, is maybe the hardest kind of hand to draw, but this must be the hardest kind of legs to draw. This is the clasped hand of the lower body, is the figure 4 leg lock. It's amazing, and it all works. It all seems real to me. I feel like the weight of it, and like nothing is kind of faked. And then I just love the different expressions on the faces, with the imminent victory, the agony. I love that she's grabbing the shirt of the ref here, and then the countdown, the count out is amazing. You don't like the line on the side of the white unitard? Is that in this one here? This line here? You're talking about the seam? Oh, and the lying down one, sorry. Oh, this line here. Oh, the same line from the previous one. That's interesting, Artful Turkey. I wonder why. Is it because it's perfectly horizontal? And maybe if there was a little bit of angle to it, it might give a little bit, it might sell the agony. Although I wonder if you could do that when you're being figure 4 leg locked. I like in this one how it creates kind of that edge of the front and the back of the figure, like it kind of separates the figure out, and how the wrinkles are coming off of it. That's another thing I try to remember. It's tough to remember with drapery. Oftentimes when there's a seam, there'll be these little wrinkles poking out of it. Same here. Do you think it's necessary? But yeah, it feels too straight. It does feel a little straight now that you mention it. And we have I like this on the floor. I think it's something that I remember that Patrick Jones says when you're drawing somebody sitting on a chair or on a floor, like you draw their butt flat. He says because the floor wins, or the chair wins. Like, it's flat, and you're not gonna, if you draw a figure sitting and you draw it more round, it's not so realistic because you're not gonna make the ground do that. The ground is gonna flatten out your skin. So you think this line is continuing with the perspective? It makes kind of a rhythm, I guess. You have the ropes, and you have that, and then you have the figure here, and then the panel border. Maybe it has to do with that rhythm too. But the fact that your attention is drawn to it might be a detriment. So you think it flattens it out like in the Z space? Yeah, maybe this is to indicate that that's our horizon line, right? That's where we're standing. Because if you're standing on the side of the ring looking in, maybe you would be at this level. And so maybe if you were standing higher, it would curve that way. And if you were maybe seated, it would curve that way. Before I do some drawing, there's a couple more things I wanted to look at. I was looking at, more crowd work. You can see here. So I was talking about how his crowds are so dynamic, and see, every figure here has a different expression, slightly different body language. Everybody's doing their own thing. It feels, I think to me, this is world building. World building is like fun. It's a popular thing. People like it. This is a good way to do world building, is in your backgrounds, in not the main characters, right? Make each one feel like stuff happened to them before they came here, and stuff will happen after they leave, and they're their own person. Again, having the lost edge back here, quite nice. And our main characters framed by, I guess, these posters or something on the wall. That's a nice device there. He does this a lot. He'll put like a little shape behind the head, and it doesn't necessarily mean anything for the location, but it works really well to direct our eye to where we want to go. And of course, the word balloons. Another crowd scene here. So our characters are in the middle, nicely framed, and there's just this swoop. I feel like this is one of the shapes in creative illustration. Get this like U shape swooping around. We even have a figure up here, kind of also framing it in a frame. And then I think this is the only place where there's this gray. So in the other one, our figures were framed by the white shape behind their heads, and in this one, we have this particular horizontal line hatching that frames our two figures in the middle here. And each person in the party is different. They're all doing their own thing. Right? Looks like these two are having an argument. This lady's got two heads, which is kind of funny. We got a robot here. I think this is a monkey smoking a cigar. And yeah, everybody's looking in a different direction, having a different conversation. Oh, Humpty Dumpty. This is Love and Rockets, book 1. I've got books 1 and 2 here. This is book 2. Or at least the Jaime Hernandez collection. So Love and Rockets, him and his brother would switch off stories. So they would do, I think, a few stories in each issue. This is one more example of the wrestling. Look at his pants. It reads completely clearly that he's standing, and the posture that he's standing in. And yet there's almost no information whatsoever on the lower body of the ref here. We just have these three ropes almost completely defining the edges of the pants, and that works. This is like totally a Lost Edge. Lots of low information pants. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, here again, we see here. It reads without any problem whatsoever. And I think it's brilliant. So, when in doubt, blacken it out. And stuff like this reminds me that you can really, really go full on with the black and not ruin the image. I think a lot of people are maybe too timid to do something like this. Like, the instinct would be to go like here and put the white outline all the way down. But this is a background character, and it's completely unnecessary. So I guess what you can take out is important. And the last one before I do some drawing is from here. This has stories by both brothers, but we're just looking at Jaime today. Again, the figure here and over here. We just have the A on the chest of the costume, and then a lot of the rest of it gets dropped out, and yet it reads. So I should make a note of that. Lost edges leading to closure. Closure is when the eye automatically fills in. Have it again here in the neck, right? There's no line there, but we just know there's a neck there. Our eye automatically fills it in. I think it was it Monk? Edward Monk who did a lot of early work with this idea, if I'm not mistaken. That's what I take out of these. Also, just want to point out this panel is nicely composed. And actually, yeah, thinking about this too, they're having a conversation, right? And in a lot of comics, when they're having a conversation, it's called like talking heads kind of comic. They just show the head, and then they show the head of the other person, and then they show the head of the first person again. But they're having a conversation, but they're all doing different stuff. So we have a variety of kind of the gesture of the figure, the action that they're doing. Different, the subtext, I guess, is shown. And also we have a variety of shots. Like he throws in this long shot in the middle. We get a little bit closer in between the figures here. So the conversations don't have to be boring. You can put more stuff in there, and I think that's something to remember as well. I could show a lot of the pages, but some of them are not okay to show on Twitch, so I'm going to draw some of these figures. I like these sketchbooks because in a lot of these, maybe not this one so much, you could, but in some of them you can see the underdrawing. I think that's really instructive. See a little bit here. I think this hand, it looks like it was up a little higher. Then he changed it. And there's some subtlety, right? The shoulder is tilted just a little bit that way, and the hips are a little bit that way. So there's that contrapposto again, and it's real subtle. And also the tilt of the pelvis is subtle, but also there. That's tough to show from the front. So this arm is going back. Top of the arm is going back. I guess it's indicated maybe slightly by the taper, but I suppose mostly by the bone. And then this arm is much more parallel to the viewer. And this forearm is coming back towards us. And it's helpful to use the negative shapes. So here there's this little triangle. For me, the art is unparalleled. The combination of the figure work, the storytelling, the characterization, the comic language. Like he uses a lot of that kind of cartoon language. Like if somebody's drunk, he'll draw the little bubbles around their head, which is, you know, comic book shorthand. And so his work is comic book realistic. And a lot of it is black and white, or most of it's black and white, I think. So that also speaks to me. Really loose. Shadow here, and then these fingers kind of just blend into each other. Looks like he's breaking the hair down into just two values. The dark and the light here. What's this background in? I think he's building up with cross-hatching. I guess I'm not going to do. For the sake of time. I wonder if he's also working in a charcoal pencil instead of graphite. Getting a little darker than me here. Digging the hatching on the legs in the original. Is there stippling on the legs too? I don't see any stippling. Might just be the paper texture. But yeah, these hatch marks here, I guess indicating whatever the boots are. Really nice. Add in. Could be some graphite in there, kind of looks like it. Yeah, I wonder, maybe the background is charcoal and the figure is graphite, because it does look like some graphite texture. But then maybe it's just a really soft lead. I'm using, what am I using? 4B. Although these drawing leads they seem to me a little bit harder than what is typically associated with what they're labeled as. Like the HB one here, it feels more like maybe an H or a 2H. There's two lines here to indicate the fabric. There's some really good drapery in some of the next images. So this is a good study for not only the figure, but also the drapery. Oh yeah. I want to show, I like his self-portrait caricature. And also, he has the cast of characters in the story. And this just like, every single character looks different And I feel like you can read into their personalities just based on this little picture. Like you can kind of see what kind of person they might be, and like leaning forward. There's just a little subtle body language and the expressions, and this guy, everybody's different. If I had to do this, I would get so many same-ish faces. And so I think actually it would be a good exercise to just draw every single one of these pictures off of this page. Maybe that will be a stream someday. That would be 20 streams someday. So these three characters are all distinct. The style, the fashion, and I mean they're all kind of doing the same thing, but they're all doing it slightly different. And I think when you're doing comics, you can get that. That's a huge deal. Yeah, and like this arm is coming back just a little and then moving forward. I think that's the cause of a lot of stiffness in figures, is ignoring the depth, the z-axis. Like when you're a kid, you draw basically, front view, side view, and everybody's moving up and down, left and right. But that depth is be a tricky thing to get a handle on. And these are all sketchbook drawings. I wonder how long it took him. I wonder if this is something he's just dashed off. Draw the same characters for a few decades and you can probably sketch them pretty quick. I think you probably could, but this is from 1980, which is when he first started drawing this. So I think that these might be like concept sketches where he's figuring out the style and the personality of his characters. I wonder if he's trying to say anything with the body distance too close together when kind of hanging out in orbit. I don't know. I wonder, because there's a lot of storytelling you can read into this if you wanted to. Yeah, these two kind of either they're walking like this, holding arms, or she's reaching over and saying, "Hey, check this out." I wonder if I don't know, a little overlap there. I like the difference in clothing. See, maybe these two are a little bit more similar. Uses these lines that go against the hatching to show kind of fabric, the drapery of the pants. And that's interesting. With Guptill in the Ingronomicon and Rendering in Pen and Ink, he like will hatch an area and then just kind of throw in these little tick marks to add visual interest, which is something that I do a lot because of studying Guptill. And he's doing that here, but he's doing that to show the fabric. So the hatching kind of is going this way, and then he's showing the folds and stuff, using that kind of that visual interest idea, but in a different kind of a way, as a useful communicator of the fabric. Everyone should be noticeably shorter. Yeah, I guess she is a bit shorter, isn't she? I made her a little too tall. Maybe I made her torso too long. That ear being low like that tells us that her head is tilted back towards us. That is another one of those subtle indicators that gets us that depth. Another thing to try to remember and to juggle while drawing, of the infinite things to remember to juggle while drawing. Keeping that ear low and the head is tilted back like that. I've always been amazed at how to draw leather in ink. Is just, it looks so complicated and yet it's so simple. It's more about drawing the highlights than the jacket. And he's using his hatching direction here to show that depth as well, direction of the form. On the right leg of the smaller one, cross hatching to show shades. The left leg is using cross marks for fabric, the right one for shading. Here, yeah, he's got it both, but it's darker shade, so it's harder to see. But yeah, he's using it the cross hatching for the shade, and then he still has these lines for the kind of folds, but they do get lost in the shading, and I guess the accumulation of that of all three of those. I guess this hatching here would be maybe the local color. You see people do this a lot for jeans. I know Joe Sacco does it a lot. So the one direction for the local color, the other direction like this for the shading, and then the third for the drapery. And this is built up by just cross hatching in different directions. Just a little bit of that. Some darker lines for the folds. And not doing it full on black like this, I guess gives it a texture too. Again, that ear is low. The head is tilted back. That's one of the things for me about pen and ink that I love, is the ability to communicate so many different textures. And the language of pen and ink is so simple. Like, it's basically black mark on white paper. And yet you can communicate so much with that. That's one of the things that I really like about woodcut, that drew me to woodcut. I always think about woodcut as it's a binary language. You either carve it or you don't. There's no other choice you make when you're carving a woodcut. It either is carved or it's not carved. It's a 1 or a 0, just like the internet. The oldest form of reproduction we have uses the same language as the newest. And yet with the simple language, there's infinite permutations. And somehow we're able to communicate and recognize basically every texture, every material. Just this subtle, this is all black except right here, get this really subtle gray where the leg is lifting up a little bit to take a step. So we get that communicated just through that. And the shape of the pant leg here, the way that it wraps. I was thinking about inking these, but I think I want to move on to some more. The point today is not, I'm not studying the ink work of Jaime Hernandez, although I probably should. I'm today studying the composition and the figure work, but I do love drawing in pen. Pen is one of my favorite things to draw with. You stick to pencil and colored pencils. Even colored pencils can be erased a bit. Yeah, I like to live dangerously, but not today. So let's see Crochet's list here. Line, shape, space, value, form, and texture. The line drops out in places, and I like that a lot, especially on his faces, where the top surface of the chin and the upper lip, not the upper lip, the philtrum, there's no line on these two figures, and I think he does that in a lot of his figures, a lot of his faces. And so not a lot of variation in line width in these, but where the line drops out is of interest. Let's see, shape. Oh, there's some shapes, right? But he uses shape to communicate depth. the shape here, figure leaning backwards. Shapes here in the hair to communicate that. Space, talked a lot about that. Figure moving in the Z space. Value, again here, using value to communicate that and to communicate form. Texture and color. The texture is the really interesting thing to me. The texture on the boots versus the pants, and even the jacket. It's probably the same material as the boots, but handled a little bit differently. Like they're all wearing different materials. That's super interesting. No color in these. Local color, actually. There was local color. In the pants, for example. This one, composition is interesting too. It's like, this is a sketchbook drawing from a sketchbook page, and yet there's composition. How the head of the figure breaks that black background. Same with this figure. I guess we get, we can enter through here, and then we have the face framed by the black there. Again, losing that line. So having that lost edge here, where the trunks meet the background, and same with the boots. But it still reads. And then having him break this line, giving us a foreground. Him, and I guess the front ropes and her. Maybe is the midground. And then she's behind the ropes, so that's more of a background. So we get this kind of breaking it up. Like he's standing in front of this. She's standing on it in front of that. She's standing behind this. When drawing from reference, how do you manage to keep all the elements lined up? I was trying to draw a profile pic today and had strips of alternating green, but those lines never really lined up with the eyes, and the eyes didn't line up with the mouth. So frustrating. It is frustrating, yeah. You got to do, I think it's called, what's the word? Remember from a long time ago. Comparative analysis. That's what you need to do. Comparative analysis. So for example, draw. And I was having trouble with this in the previous one, actually, so glad that you mentioned it. Draw this figure, and then we use this figure kind of as a baseline. And then we can see her head is here. Then we draw a line, let's say from her chin over this way. And do this, you can do this mentally, you don't have to draw it actually, but draw a line over here, and we see that her chin lines up with her forehead. That's a good way to get, like Plumsink was saying, she's shorter. So then that lines up with the forehead. And maybe we have the where the shirt meets the trunks here. Here. Draw a line across. We get the belt of this figure. We're going her that point where her nose meets her eye. If we draw a line, a plumb line straight down, it lines up right over that foot. And so we can sort of make a map, find where everything kind of, how they line up. You got to cross-reference stuff if you're having trouble keeping things straight. Does that make sense? Fancy phrase. Comparative analysis and plumb lines. A plumb line is basically just a vertical line that hangs straight with gravity. You can invent your own. You could have diagonal ones, but in traditional like figure drawing or still life drawing, sometimes people will hang like a string with a little weight on the bottom of it, in front of what they're drawing, help them keep things, lined up where they're supposed to. I like to do it just mentally, so I can. I feel like it makes things less stiff, but maybe less accurate as well. This drawing has some natural lines here with the ropes. But let's see if what I just did actually holds up. This was supposed to be her belt. What is here? Their feet are both on the same plane. Again, she's got that subtle tilt of the shoulders against the hips are a little bit tilted this way. So the subtle contrapposto again. The comparative analysis is making sense. Okay, good. I think it's one of the most helpful kind of tricks to keep from getting lost. And it also can help like not going in and drawing a finished face and then moving on and drawing the rest of the stuff. Like getting in just enough information, because then it's easier to correct stuff too. It sucks if you draw a full face and then realize that it's a little bit too small. You gotta erase it all. We've got the rope here, and that should line up with... That's a little low, because I feel like her arm is up higher. Then this should come up a little bit. So then she's reaching in front of this. She's standing behind the rope and reaching in front. So that's tilt to the shoulder. And I think she's saying, "You're too scrawny to be a wrestler." So if this was the bottom of the shirt and we draw a line across, we see that it comes above here. So that's about right, at least this direction. We're going up though. This should line up there. So maybe a little bit, not a little bit further. And it's so well observed that the shoe front of it kind of comes up a little. I feel like it's so easy to draw a foot like this. I feel like I've drawn a billion feet like that. But just that little bit there in the front. The flat foot is easy to fall into like hands. Somebody wants to draw it. Yeah, it's... I don't know. I feel like it's just the default. And it's probably one of those, like I was saying, with the drawing simply the two dimensions. It's one of those things like a holdover from when you're a kid. Even here, he's showing just the bottom, just a little bit of that bottom of that boot, and a little detail. And when you get all these little details together, it sells it. I noticed while we were away that this knee is supposed to be higher than this knee. That comes to over here. Her leg is coming out. Her butt's a little bigger. And so this looks like this leg is lifted up a little bit. The upper leg is coming towards us, and the lower leg is going back away from us. And yeah, we see that from this line in this direction. Perspective on the human figure. Really important. when drawing people, having an eye on the perspective of things. And this one is the other way. So this one's moving away from us, and this one's coming towards us. And I like this back leg. Here, it pokes out here, and pokes out again back here. So this goes through his forehead here. Little light, meaning thin. She's got more bulk. Her torso. I think it's here. I think this is more like that, and then there's more shirt back here, and then the background ropes show that I have shortened this again. I think a little wonky on these legs. Wonder what it is about his legs that I do differently. Great, super loose folds here in the shirt. So I think this hip is higher and this one is lower. I think her hips go that way. And so she has the bent leg so that she can stand flat. We have the angle here. And then shoulders are going the other way. So the right side of her torso is taller than the left. The stretch and the pinch, right? But I see what you're getting at. I think her shoulder is lifted up, so it makes the torso look bigger. I think the shoulder blade is popped up to get the arm up on the rope. Again, he drops out the philtrum completely, goes straight into the nose. But he did do the top of the chin in this one. Simple hand construction here is nice. I can do it a little more justice. I hope. Yeah, this shape here is bigger than what I've got going on here. So my proportions are clearly not the same, but that's fine. The point of doing the drawing is not to get a perfect match, but it's to see what you discover as you're trying to get a perfect match. What things reveal themselves during the process of the drawing. For example, the way that these feet are. Notice with his collars, he does he shows perspective very nicely. That's something, I don't know. That's another little touch that I like. He's got this S curve here to show it coming up forward, and then it turns and goes backwards in space. He did it in this one. I didn't really capture it so well, I think, with that. I lost my bookmark. I took my bookmark out here. Yeah, he did it nicely here. Comes up, and then it changes direction and comes back. That went fast, at least for me. I guess I have a good time drawing Jaime Hernandez. So I prepared a bunch more that I didn't get to. But I think the big takeaway from his work is small details accumulate. Small choices. And details add up. Because he fits in so many just little things that I wouldn't at least think when it comes to the characterization or like with the lost edges and stuff here, little bits of texture, little details of the foot, having the head just slightly tilted. I think when you look at most comics or most drawings of people, you know, their heads are just straight up, but if you add just a little tilt, I don't know, it gives it some life. And I think that's interesting. An interesting thing to keep in mind. I love Jaime Hernandez's work. I could spend the next 5 years just drawing his stuff on stream, but I won't, because next time I have to draw a water ice urinal chimera for crochet. So, hope we don't get artistic whiplash. Get the bends. Thanks for watching, everybody. I will be back Friday, 10 a.m. Taiwan time. That is Thursday, 10 p.m. Eastern, if you are in the U.S. All of my past artist studies are up on YouTube, so if you're interested in who the other artists are that I've studied, you can see them on YouTube. Take care, everybody.